You're watching Reality Check. After months of faltering, India's vaccination drive finally appears to be getting closer to the government's ambitious goals of vaccinating all adults with 2 doses by December this year, which requires vaccinating over 1 crore doses a day. On at least 3 days in a span of 2 weeks, we managed to hit over 1 crore doses, leading to celebratory messages like the ones you're seeing on the screen, several of them thanking the Prime Minister. But a closer look at the numbers raises questions over whether the 1 crore a day target is sustainable as of now. Based on their own disclosures, the 2 main vaccination makers supplying India's vaccination program, Bharat Biotech and Serum Institute of India, promised anywhere between 14.5 to 17.5 crore doses in August, which works out to about 47 to 56 lakh doses a day. That's just half of the 1 crore target. So how are we hitting 1 crore doses a day? This is the mystery math. How are we achieving it when production is only about half the amount? The answer may lie in looking at the average rate of vaccination a day for the month of August. It's about 57 lakh doses a day, which matches the production figure as well. So that's how it's working out. Production is about 47 to 56 lakh doses a day, and we're administering about the same amount, 57 lakh doses a day. Now, crossing about 57 lakh doses in August is definitely an improvement by 40% over July. Let's put that chart up on the screen, where we were doing 40 lakh doses a day. In the first 5 days of September, the average improved further to about 71 lakh doses a day. So you can see how much it's been going up, but it's still not close to the 1 crore mark. So that's the whole chart. So we just go through that again: 40 lakhs, 57 lakhs, 71 lakhs. Now this suggests that these 1 crore peaks may have been anomalies, likely driven by some states stockpiling inventory to achieve record-breaking days rather than a sustained effort. If one breaks down the numbers for the 1 crore day on 27th of August, for example, 5 states alone accounted for over 60% of the doses administered. Most of these were incidentally NDA states, of which UP alone accounted for nearly 30%. But if you look at the breakup of UP for that record 1 crore day on 27th August, look at the overall graph on the government's COVID dashboard. It shows that there's a significant dip. So you have that peak which we've circled, but look at the dip before and after that. So it's a very seesaw vaccination drive. Now that seems to be the same for the other states as well, which also contributed to the record day. Most of them saw a big increase on the 27th compared to August 26th. Look at Karnataka. It's the same. There's a peak, but before and after that, there's a huge dip. Let's go to Maharashtra. This is actually not a BJP or an NDA state. There, the peak is not that high. But again, look at Haryana. Look at the huge peak and the huge drop. And that's the pattern if you look at state after state. Now, if you look at the pattern of another record-breaking day, which is Tuesday, August the 31st, where we again crossed 1 crore doses, amongst the biggest contributors were Bihar and Gujarat. Again, interestingly enough, NDA states. Now, on Monday, August 30th, the day prior, the number of doses administered significantly dropped in both these states, even compared to Mondays of previous weeks. Again, raising the question, is stockpiling behind the vaccine surge? Look at Bihar. On the Monday of the 16th of August, Bihar did almost 6 lakh doses. On the 23rd of August, Monday, 4.8 lakh doses. But on the 30th of August, Monday, just 81,000 doses. And then the next day, almost 30 lakh doses. Same with Gujarat. On the Monday of the 16th of August, almost 5.5 lakh doses, roughly the same amount of doses on the 23rd Monday. But on August the 30th Monday, just 3,000 doses. And on the 31st, the big dhamaka of 9 lakh doses. So while these 1 crore dhamaka days are important to demonstrate our capacity for such large-scale vaccinations, it's important to understand that we're still below targets. We were meant to vaccinate 60% of our population by December, but at the current average of September of about 70 lakh doses a day, we'll only be able to do about 45%. All right, I spoke earlier to R.S. Sharma, who heads the government's CoWIN platform, which is of course the main platform that coordinates vaccination drives. And I began by asking him that while these targets are certainly creditable when we achieve them, if you average it out, it's still well below targets and we still have a long way to go, Mr. Sharma.
Well, I think first of all, the variation in the figure, variation is inevitable, because the states, for example, you should give them one day at least in a week where our health workers, our vaccinators, doctors, they must sort of have some relaxation at least once a week. Secondly, the states also have their own programs, universal immunization program also goes on. So these variations do take place, but I think the overall statistic, if you look at them, I think we have done phenomenally well. 1 crore is not even the population of many of the countries, and we are clocking 1 crore. A couple of days back we clocked 1 crore 41 lakhs. So it's actually not even 1 crore; it's nearing 1.5 crores.
Sure.
So I think this only proves that we have the capacity, and our people are working very well, and the credit is not to any individual. Credit is to the entire network of our health workers, state government, our honorable Prime Minister, who have been directing this whole program.
But no, of course, credit
deserves.
Yes, credit to everybody. But when you say 1 crore is a record and bigger than other, that's the target set by the government itself. So if the government is meeting its own targets, that is good. But that's as per their own declaration. But the question really is that we should have already been doing 1 crore every day, and we're not, which means, as I said in my introduction, we're likely to miss targets.
No, I think I don't agree with that. I have not agreed in the past also, because what has happened, imagine we started at 200,000 per day. This was the figure. And then, somebody was showing me the graph which says it took 85 days to cover the first 1 crore or whatever number. So I think this way, what is happening is that the speed has accelerated quite a bit. And I am very sure that we will be able to achieve the target. I mean, obviously, one should not just, do an arithmetical calculation, because this is actually increasing quite substantially.
No, that's true.
And you can see that.
Yes, it is increasing, but the fact is that we're still, we're still struggling to meet our targets.
Let me also do a caveat, which I think I have been doing, is that ultimately I am really in charge of the CoWIN platform. So as far as the scalability of the platform is concerned, I am absolutely certain. We have done 1.5 crores, which actually translates to fairly 20,000 vaccinations per minute and a couple of 300 vaccinations per second. So that's one thing which we have been doing, and the platform is absolutely scalable. I don't think there is any platform in the world which has scaled up. But your numbers also, this number is really, I'm not the one who will be able to comment. Only thing which I can say is that we have done a great job, and we are continuing to do a great job. So if somebody has just doubts, and there will be some people who will continue to have doubts all the time, but that's unfortunate. We don't have any doubts that we will be able to achieve the target the government has set up.
It's not about some people having doubts. It's about simply pointing out the gap between the government's own targets and what we're actually able to do. But the real question is the demand-supply question, sir, Mr. Sharma, which is that our vaccine production is only, based on their own declared figures, from what we know, in the range of 60 to 70 lakh per day. So that's pretty much all we'll be able to do.
So that, I think, is again, though of course I will not be able to give any authentic statement on that front, but I think your assumption that only 60 to 70 lakh per day is the production level is not correct. Let me just say that, not say much more about that.
Okay, well, I'm only going by the numbers that these companies declare, because unfortunately vaccine production numbers in this country are not transparent. They're not regularly declared. But overall though, you're saying that we are able to meet our targets, we are able to expand, and the important thing is that we're not just expanding in cities, but we're also going into rural India.
No, certainly. In fact, we have been saying from the very beginning that the CoWIN platform is an extremely inclusive platform. It's a scalable platform. It's an interoperable platform. Now, just to give you an idea that people confuse that registration and appointment scheduling is the only job that COVID does. That is not correct. COVID as a platform contains a number of applications. So one application is scheduling and appointment and registration. Another application is hospital onboarding, where they declare their capacity and their timetables. Another is a vaccination module, where vaccinator at the time of vaccinating a person enters the data or fetches the data from the registration module and basically marks the people as registered, as vaccinated. And finally, there is a certificate download module, which basically enables the certificate downloading. There is another module of recording the adverse impact of vaccination, AEFI module, that's also there. So basically, what has happened since the very beginning, the number of people who were coming and registering on the platform, that was very high, because at that point in time, there were more demand than the supply at that point in time. Now the situation is much better, and therefore, what is happening is that only about 30% people are getting registered and get the scheduling done for their vaccination. The rest 70% are coming what is called walk-in, number one. Number two, the urban-rural divide or urban-rural bifurcation also has been done. And if you look at the figures, again, that is highly, it's not as if the urban people only alone are getting the vaccination. So now, obviously, 71 crore is not the urban population of this country. So obviously, large number of people and very significant, about, I don't know the percentage exactly, but that you can figure it out from COVID platform itself, where we categorize the vaccination centers as rural and urban. And basically, those guys are coming from rural areas. We have also taken a number of steps. For example, every state government and union territory is taking steps to mobilize people. So they are having all kinds of, communications. We have enabled the district administrators and the state administrators and even the vaccination centers to download the list of people whose second dose is due. And we continue to, kind of send them SMSs. But even when the people don't come and don't get, vaccinated, there is a system where people are mobilizing. So every effort is being made to include everybody, because we also believe that unless everybody is safe, nobody is safe.
Okay. That is a key mantra. Unless everybody is safe, nobody is safe. Thank you very much indeed, R.S. Sharma, for joining us. Let's go to panel. Dr. Hemant Deshmukh, Dean of KEM Hospital in Mumbai, is with us. Dr. Sunila Garg, Member, Lancet Commission, COVID India Task Force. And Anish T.S., Doctor, Member, Expert Panel for COVID-19 Kerala. Thank you all so much for being here. Dr. Garg, just very quickly on these numbers, and just to focus on this 1 crore business, as we pointed out, that while it's wonderful that we're able to achieve it, that means our entire system is geared to do 1 crore plus doses. That's not the average we're operating on. And if there's an attempt to almost kind of artificially boost these numbers by dipping it below and then stockpiling, and then is that really prudent? Isn't it better to just maintain a steady batting average rather than try to create these, spikes which then tend to appear as anomalies?
Thank you, Mr. Srinivasan, first of all, for having me on the show. Number one thing is that I will talk from a public health perspective, because when we talk of the vaccination program, it is never static, number one, because it all depends upon, the number of immunization sites, the number of, other programs which are being carried on simultaneously.
Right.
So these are the things, if I will take example of two states, for example, Andhra Pradesh and Bihar, there we have done approximately 37% of the vaccination. But if I was to talk of Arunachal Pradesh, we have covered 72% of the population. If I was to talk of Kerala, we have, done about, approximately 80% of the population, because of the, it's about, receiving the first dose and second dose.
Yeah.
What we have to be, talking about is that how much first doses have been given. Like Himachal has covered, almost 100% first doses, and they have started with their second dose. So, but then, if I was to talk of overall from a country scenario, I will look at three scenarios. I will look at number one, what is the seropositivity? Like we have got 5 states with high seropositivity. Amongst them, one of the states with the, has got above 5.8%, when we are talking of Meghalaya. So we have got that. But Kerala has got the highest seropositivity, but because of other reasons, because you see, number of cases are also very high.
Kerala actually, I think actually has the lowest seropositivity. They amongst the low, they have there are large number of infections, but in terms of the seropositivity, from what I was told, it's amongst the lowest.
No, Srinivasan, I'm talking about test positivity ratio.
Oh,
it's
test positivity. Oh, sorry, I heard sero. I beg your pardon.
No. Test positivity ratio.
Right, test positivity. Okay, but overall, okay, understood. Yeah. Overall, I think the point is, and this is the question which I'm trying to understand, Dr. Deshmukh, because if you look at the overall percentages of how many we vaccinated, despite the fact that we're doing crore plus doses now and all of that, fully vaccinated is only 12% of the population and received first dose is 38%. This is for the entire population, not just adult population. That's still low, and we're amongst the lowest in the world. And the challenge, Dr. Deshmukh, has been, as I said, that there's a production demand mismatch. We're still producing less than 1 crore doses a day, so we can't do more than that. And that's why you've had, Dr. Deshmukh, some days where you had a huge jump, a spike, and then the next day you've had vaccine centers shut down.
Good evening, Srinivas. What is happening at the level of the city? I will restrict my discussion to the city itself, that is Mumbai, which is managed by the Municipal Corporation of Greater Mumbai.
Yes.
So we take our doses from the state government. And once the state government allots a particular quota to the corporation, we undertake the vaccination drive in the entire city. Now, Mumbai Corporation has almost, we have something like 1.02 crore vaccinations which were done. The first dose vaccinations which has happened is almost 80%. And the number of people who
80% of adult population.
Of eligible population.
Right, which is currently adult population. Right, okay.
Yeah, and in Mumbai, people who have got 2 doses is almost to the tune of 30%. Now, this enormous difference between 30 and 80% needs to be bridged over a period of time.
Right.
And the 84 days mandatory wait period is always there, which you cannot shorten it now unless you have 2 doses fully vaccinated for the entire population of Mumbai.
Right. Okay. No, that's an important gap to bridge. Dr. Anish T.S. in Kerala, now, last when I was speaking to the Health Minister of Kerala, this was a while ago, there were still shortages. She was still complaining about how you would just get enough for 3 days and then again you had to wait. Has that gotten better? Even though, as I said, there's still a production versus target mismatch, but overall, are you getting more doses now? Is it better now?
We are getting comparatively more doses now, but it is not up to the mark. If you just go to the statistics, and you can see that maybe 60 to 70 lakhs doses per day is not a low rate, because the enormous population of India, maybe if you are comparing with other countries, maybe 60 to 70 lakhs per day may be a very large number. But here, India has got a very large population and we have to go for prioritization. If you prioritize, as Dr. Garg has already said, you just look at the areas where the seroprevalence rates are much less. And where are the areas where the cases now is currently surging and the test positivity rate is high and the proportion of elderly and other vulnerable groups and all. And these areas should be given priority. If you are able to give 1 crore doses per day, it may be okay. But otherwise, we have to go for some kind of a priority, and we have to distribute more vaccine on those areas where these vaccines may be more helpful to stop infections.
You're saying you're doing a priority. The other question, Dr. Sunila Garg, and we've not even got into this yet, is that there is increasing data which shows that there is a drop in efficacy of vaccines even after 2 doses. So, immediately after the doses, you have a high efficacy, high protection, but the protection starts to systematically fall, which is why many countries now are thinking of doing booster shots. I think some of them have even started doing. These are obviously the wealthy countries which have vaccine stockpiles. But imagine now with our current production figures, which I said is still has to measure up, we now have to also perhaps start thinking of getting enough vaccines for booster shots. So that's another huge number.
Yeah. Mrs. Srinivasan, one thing which we have to keep in mind is our vaccine strategy has to be very smart and very strategic. That means we need to also look at the people who are already infected. Natural immunity is always the best immunity, and we don't require the vaccine immediately, at least as per Government of India's guidelines, for about 3 months. But then we can wait even for quite some time more also. That is there. But as far as when you're talking of other countries, they have already started looking at the boosters. You see, WHO also talked to the companies also, and also talked to different countries. You see, we have got 3 things to do, what we can do right now. Either our primary immunization schedule can have, instead of 2, they can have 3 doses. Number 2 is also that we can have 2 primary doses and 1 booster. That means after 6 months, which the countries have already started doing. Something like in US or in Israel or in UK, they've already started doing, and they've already given the 3rd dose of booster vaccine. That is the, I'll say, booster. And the 3rd component could be fractional doses. That means we reduce the quantity of vaccine which we are doing, like in case of injectable polio and all that. That will be a much more strategic option to look at,
Even,
so once we are
how
looking
much,
at,
maybe give,
we can
give not the full,
3 doses, but in lesser quantity.
Reduce the quantity. So different ways of optimizing our resources, which are not at the moment maybe entirely up. But overall, Dr. Deshmukh, we're looking at, as you said, a reasonably good footprint of the vaccine in Mumbai. Could be better, but at least adult population, good percentage. But at the same time, we're again seeing infections pick up in Mumbai. The Mumbai mayor even mentioned that there could be a 3rd wave coming. Nagpur again, also Maharashtra, worrisome. Is that a matter of concern that, despite so much vaccine coverage, you're seeing infections pick up? As I mentioned, that again brings up the question of the booster shot.
What has happened in Mumbai is that those who have not got even the 1st dose of vaccination are getting admitted to an ICU with COVID-19 positive test reports. But those who have already got 2 doses of the vaccination since the month of January, hardly anybody is getting admitted to a critical bed.
But you are getting admissions in KEM, you are getting critical patients who have not had any vaccination.
Half of them are not vaccinated at all.
Not vaccinated. But is the number still within control, critical?
Yes, very much. The numbers of admission of critical patients is almost 10 per day, which is almost 10% of what we had at the peak.
Oh, okay. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed, Dr. Deshmukh, that it doesn't go above that. In fact, it goes below that. But let's see, very interestingly poised juncture for our mega vaccine drive. Let's see how those numbers pan out. But we're out of time. Thank you all so much for joining me on Reality Check. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.